Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode with the Road to Glory podcast. I'm Juliet.
And I'm Cecilia. And in today's episode, unfortunately, obviously, we were supposed to be talking about the Bahrain Grand Prix for F2 and F3. But as we all know, the Middle Eastern races have been rightfully cancelled. So unfortunately, we're not here to be talking about any racing, even though we will be back with that soon, because since recording our last week's episode, it obviously has been announced that F2 are racing in Miami and Canada. Can we first take a moment for that?
I'm so excited. It's going to be monumental. It's going to be a clean slate. These drivers haven't been to these tracks that I know of. So it's going to be so interesting to see the racing that we get.
I literally cannot wait because, first of all, we've had quite a long break since Australia, and we all know whenever there's a longer break in F2, it's usually chaos when we come back. Like, they need a couple of sessions before they're actually back to how do we go racing, and then make it in Miami where they have never raced that before. It's gonna be insane, and I just want it to be May and Miami time right now.
I know. I can't wait, but we will be tuning in May.
Yes, and the only thing we don't know yet is if F3 will do anything for their cancel race. Still waiting on that. Maybe when this episode goes out, we already know. But we'll have to wait and see on that. But in the meantime, of course, we still have an episode for you, as we do every single week. So for this week's episode, we've decided to take on the topic of which drivers do we foresee maybe possibly making it to F1 in the future. Now, obviously, none of us know anything. It's all just based on vibes, I feel like. But that is also funny, making some small predictions like this.
Exactly. It's just kind of going off who has the hype, who is there a lot of chatter of making it all the way. Obviously, as we mentioned in many, many episodes, F1 is not always the ultimate goal. But for a lot of feeder series drivers, that is what they are aiming for. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about who we feel could make it to F1. And yeah, I think we can probably just jump straight into it. I will say, a lot of the drivers who are connected to academies are probably a bit of a step up on the other ones to make it to F1, because that's kind of the natural progression. Teams are most likely going to choose drivers that are in their academy, but we do know academies like to drop their drivers, so nobody's safe from that.
No, it's always a risk picking an academy as well, because some of these juniors obviously get become part of an F1 team's academy pretty early on, already down to Freca, maybe possibly. Also, some even sooner, like Kimi Antonetti, when he was 12 years old, signed with Mercedes. And it is so difficult to basically look into a crystal ball and be like, where will there be an F1 seat available for me in X amount of years when I make it up the ranks to F1? Because even though you have an association with an F1 team, first of all, of course, as you say, you could be dropped in the meantime, but also you could be stuck with a team that don't have any seats available for you, and also, unless you are with Red Bull, can't find another seat for you. So yeah, it's definitely not end all be all to be part of an academy, but it definitely does help.
Yeah, exactly. Should I go first with my first prediction?
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay, so I feel like this is kind of a bit of an obvious one, but I really do see Rafa Câmara making it to F1. I foresee him, obviously, off the back of a very dominant F3 season. I foresee him having a really good F2 season. Maybe 2 years, not sure, depends how it goes. But I could also see him winning it this year. And then I could definitely see him finding a seat somewhere, kind of following Gabriel Bortoleto, not necessarily to Audi or whatever. But if there's, okay, in F1, there are loads of seats as of now, technically available for next year. We've really not got the grid set, like, at all. So I think there could be a bit of a reshuffle in that sense. And I could also see Rafa sticking with, obviously, he's a Ferrari junior. I could see him going a similar route to Ollie Behrman, maybe going to Haas if there's an opportunity there, and Ollie goes to Ferrari if there's an opportunity there. So there could be like a bit of a shift, but I definitely see him getting a seat in the future.
Yes, I also
Yeah,
have a Rafa Câmara on my list of
yeah,
drivers I foresee potentially having good chances of going to F1 one day. I will say if like I were to say like a percentage chance of like making it to F1 next year, I would have put him higher when I thought Hamilton was gonna retire after this year. Now that it seems like, oh, he's kind of back now and enjoying this new car,
yeah,
I would see him staying, and then there would be the issue of like, do Haas have room for him? Because that is definitely the route I see now that Ferrari have done this with putting in their junior in Haas, both with Ollie Behrman, but also with Mick Schumacher before him. I would see it as a natural progression if Ollie then stepped up to Ferrari, but now I'm questioning it if that will be next year. That doesn't mean it won't happen at some point. I
yeah,
still feel very confident about that. And also, as you mentioned, Rafa could win this year, and then maybe he would have a year as a reserve. That's also like very
yeah,
standard for some of the champions, like Oscar Piastri did, also as Leonardo Fonaroli is doing right now. Obviously, we don't know if he'll get a seat in F1. We could definitely hope so, but that also like awaits to be seen.
yes, I totally agree with that. And now, the next person I want to mention, it could happen, it could not happen, but I do see Cadillac are making a big effort
Oh,
for
wow.
Colton to get
Yeah.
him there. So I mean, I don't know how the F2 season is going to perform for him, but I do think he's putting a lot of like all of his eggs are in one basket here. Like he is left IndyCar. He's putting all of his focus in F2. Like he can't do the Indy 500 because of one of the races. I don't know if I think it clashes with
It's
Canada.
Canada. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Canada.
So like he is committed. So I don't know. I could see him performing relatively well. Maybe it takes him 1 or 2 years, but I could see him getting a couple races with Cadillac. Who knows if he stays there? But I think they're doing a lot for him. So maybe he makes it there. I just wanted to mention him.
There's definitely a big push, like we all know, to get
Yeah.
an American driver into F1, specifically with Cadillac. Obviously, them being like the American team now. Obviously, Haas is also an American team, but Cadillac is very much like we are based in America. We want American drivers. So I could see Colton if he performs well enough in F2. Like that is like the big if we have right now. Obviously, there's only been one round so far. So we
Yeah.
don't know yet. That wasn't his best. But also it is tough being thrown from IndyCar to F2. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops, if he'll actually be good enough and have the super license points to actually get a full-time seat with Cadillac. Now, mentioning Cadillac, I feel like I have to mention someone where if I didn't mention him at some point during this episode, it wouldn't be me. Like it would be a clone of me, and you would all be concerned because obviously I have to mention that the dream lives on, and I am predicting finally a Frederick Vesti to F1 because like I as the Frederick Vesti #1 defender, I will say his name in this episode. It had to be done, and also now that we're talking about Cadillac, I still see it as a potential if, let's say, Colton Herta isn't ready to join them and they want a new driver. Obviously, with Bottas and Paris, yes, they have all the experience. But do we realistically think they will both think it's funny continuing to drive around in basically a tractor? Because I don't think so. And I do think Fred is up there amongst the young drivers they are keeping an eye out on, obviously, because he is driving for Cadillac in IMSA and performing really well there. So I wanted to put his name out there.
Yeah, I mean, I had a feeling you would bring Fred up, which is totally
Yeah.
valid because
Yes.
I completely agree with everything that you're saying, and kind of his links to the team are totally there. So it's not out of this world that that happens. Now, the next person slash teams I want to talk about is, we know Red Bull have two teams. We've got
Yeah.
Red Bull and we've got Racing Bulls. So they've got a little bit more to play around. We also know they like to put people in the car and take them out quite quick. So,
Yeah.
my next person I want to mention is, I could possibly see Nikola Solov in the future getting a seat, probably at Racing Bulls, if he performs well. Obviously, we keep saying if they perform well, but it really
Yeah.
depends. Like, they've still got time ahead of them. Like, we've got a whole season, maybe another season, because obviously Nicola's coming in as a rookie. But he's got strong links to the team and he's been performing well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that.
No, also, I will say for the viewers, we have not talked about what drivers we have put on our list, but I have also picked Nicholas Solomon. So yeah, independently of each other, we are apparently sharing the same brain cell once again. Because yeah, I have also put it down to, obviously no shade to Nicola. He is a great driver. He did come close to winning F3 last year, and he also has gotten a good start to F2 so far. Obviously, again, only run round in. It's difficult to tell. Yeah, I also put Nicola Solomon on the list. More so, just I also wrote down whichever Red Bull Junior is performing best
Yeah.
at the time, because that is very much like kind of the criteria they are going off of. Like,
Yeah.
if you are performing well, you have very high chances of actually getting that Racing Bull seat. But then on the other hand, if someone else is performing better than you, or like showing more at an earlier stage of the career than you, then you'll most likely also just like be dropped and like you have to move on somewhere else. So risk versus reward being part of the Red Bull Junior Academy.
Yeah, definitely. But as we mentioned, if we see him performing well, then maybe he could get that seat.
Yeah, it waits to be seen. I could definitely see it if, again, we will mention this so many times, and I'm already annoyed at ourselves. But like, if he performs well, I can see him going to F1 one day. Now, other driver I could foresee going to F1. Now we have mostly talked about like F2 drivers, and then like my off one with Fred Leslie. Obviously, though he's also like previous F2 driver. But for my next prediction, I'll go down to F3. And we have some obvious ones down there, so I'm sure that we have like both picked this person
Yeah.
100%. The first obvious choice down from F3 is obviously that most likely, with all the hype and talent he has, Freddie Slater is gonna make it to F1 one day.
Definitely. Of course, we are both in agreement with this. Also, have Freddie Slater on my little list of who I think could make it. As you mentioned, the hype that he has coming in, he is also now connected to the Audi F1 team. So perhaps there, I do think if he gets up to F2 and almost in F1 and Audi are not performing well, he will be snatched up by somebody
Yeah.
else. Like, I don't think he's gonna settle for a lower team that are like at the back of the grid. I just think with his talent and his backing and the hype at the moment, I foresee him definitely making it to a good F1 team.
Yeah, he definitely has everything going for him, both like on how great a driver he is. Obviously, that is an important criteria, but like, obviously, there's so many great drivers and so many who could easily get an F1 seat if it was just based off who's performing best. But he definitely has the other things going for him as well. Also, being a British driver, like nationality is still a big thing for like what sponsors can you bring and like what teams will be interested in you. So, yeah, either way, would be surprised if somehow Freddie doesn't make it to F1, but obviously he's just in his first year in F3, so like it is still very early to tell, but he is like one of those drivers that I see more as like generational talent, I feel like.
Yeah, just with the hype, like and
Mm.
he has so much hype coming into it. Like the headlines that he just brings himself and his whole family, like he has his brothers who also getting their way up through the ranks. Come back here in like 2 years or three, I don't know how many until Freddie will be in F1. But like if there was one driver you had to bet money on out of all these, I would probably put the money on Freddie.
Yeah, he is definitely the safest bet, I would say. Now, I also touched upon nationality playing a big part. And in F3, I still believe, even though the hype has died slightly down about him, I still see Ugo Chukwu making it to F1 one day. Obviously, him being American, we already mentioned with Colton Herta that there is that push of like people wanting to see an American driver in F1. And actually, a driver who can then perform well. We obviously had Logan Sargent that didn't have the best time in F1 for multiple different reasons. We have to redo that with
Yeah.
another driver. Hopefully, maybe that could be Ugo Chukwu. Also, like he was kind of forgotten in the hype because he joined Prema in F3 last year, and they had like their worst season in F3 probably ever since they
Yeah.
joined the series. So like now him moving to Campos, I feel like the hype will start growing again now that he finally has the car to like show what a talented driver he is again.
I think he will be picked up by a different academy because we know he got dropped by McLaren. I think they will thoroughly regret that. And I think he'll be picked up by someone else, or maybe McLaren again, who knows? But I foresee him being in a driver development program that even in this year, the later half, or definitely for next year.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see if he wants to have the extra paint on his livery
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it takes being part of the F1 team. Or if you just want to go with the nice campus black white. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do foresee him being picked up by another F1 team soon. Then it also comes down to again if he like wants to risk going
Mhm.
for a team without knowing if like they'll have room for him whenever he makes it up from F3 to F2 and then hopefully to F1. We have to wait and see on that. But now actually now that you mentioned McLaren, when we are on the topic of McLaren, I will say I have someone on my list that is very out of left field right
Whoa.
now.
Okay.
Bec- because I felt like we cannot do this list without including a female driver. So I have actually gone with, even though it's very early to say, because she's literally having her first year in Formula 4 cars this year, but Ella Häkkinen, so Häkkinen's
Mhm.
daughter, I just feel like obviously the genes she has
Yeah.
and like the hype she has also now already having joined McLaren. Also, Häkkinen said like at some point, oh, McLaren is gonna be the best team soon, and people didn't believe him. See what happened. So like he's the oracle and his daughter might actually make it to F1. You heard it here first.
Yes. Obviously, for a female, it's hard to predict because we have not seen that progression through the feeder series ladder that we spoke about before. So it is difficult, but I can definitely see that. I mean, obviously, the closest drivers to getting there would probably be like Abby Pulling in
Yeah.
GB3. I could definitely see Abby Pulling making it, maybe having like a reserve driver role within a team. Obviously, with Jessica Hawkins being connected with Aston Martin, I could see like a similar-ish role for Abby Pulling. But I mean, all of this is just guesswork, assuming, predicting. So don't take anything to heart. Who knows what will happen in the future in this crazy world that we live in? But I could, I could see um Abby having some connection in the world of F1.
Yes, we'll definitely have to wait and see on that. Obviously, the only thing that's like not as positive for Abby is that she
Yeah,
is in her 20s now, whereas someone like Ella Häkkinen is only 15, so like has more years to progress. But definitely, I
exactly.
do see Abby pulling as like being a potential driver to be the closest driver we have right now, actually, to like maybe make it one day. And we will get a female driver in F1. The only question is who, and we'll have to wait and see on that.
Exactly. I have one more driver that I want to put out there. I feel like I have to mention Finn McLaughlin. Obviously, he's connected with Red Bull. Just want to put his name out there. Is he someone to watch? And maybe we can have an Irish driver in F1 with him. I mean, obviously, we do have Alex Dunn in F2 at the moment. Who knows what will happen there? But he is someone to keep an eye on.
Yes, definitely. Will be interesting to see because I definitely have him as a driver. I could see one day, obviously it is early in his career, but maybe
Yeah.
make it to F1. But yeah, I think that was all the drivers we have for now that we wanted to predict for F1. We could be completely wrong with most of them, but I'm confident we at least got some of them right. And like obviously we don't know anything. Like we cannot know, and that is the fun part about F1 as well. Also the sad part because there are some drivers that really should make it to F1, but unfortunately for multiple different reasons, all of them cannot make it. But yeah, that was it for today's episode. We hope, obviously, that you want to subscribe to us here on YouTube, follow us on Spotify. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.